Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello, welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm Nikki Wallman. The Jewish Quarter of Trebic in the Czech Republic is an exceptional testimony to the cultural traditions of the diaspora in Central Europe and bears witness to the coexistence and interchange of values between two cultures, Jewish and Christian, over many centuries. Proclaimed a World Heritage by UNESCO in 2003, millions of dollars have been spent restoring three distinct components of Trebic: the Jewish Quarter, the Jewish Cemetery, and St. Procopius Basilica, all situated on the north bank of the river Jihlava.
The Jewish Quarter rises from the river up on the hillside. The urban layout is characterized by two main streets, linked with the riverside through a number of small medieval alleys, some of which go through the houses. The Jewish Quarter, with its 123 houses, counts among European rarities. As part of UNESCO's restoration program, anything that is discovered must be preserved.
In 1723, there were 1,434 people living in the quarter, and for 96 houses, it means 15 people on average lived in one house. This well is from the year 1724, and because there were many families in this house, the family who owned this part of the house, they have to give water to each family in the house. And also there was a distillery in this house, and also one stable for one horse.
In Trebic, one will find two mikvahs, or ritual baths, within the Jewish Quarter. The first is found in a cellar of one of the 123 houses in the quarter, and the other was discovered during the building renovations of the Hotel Joseph, 1699.
We didn't know nothing about mikveh, that mikveh is here, but when we cleaned the rooms, we found out that there is some hole in the floor in one of the room, and we thought that it is well, but it was only 1.5 meters deep, and Professor Fischer, he is a historian of Trebic town. He knows something about Jewish history and so on. He found out that it was in most probability mikveh. We can place using of the mikveh between two time points. First of them is date when the buildings came from owners Christians to the owner Jewish. It is in 1629, and before this date, it is not possible that here could be mikveh, because on the Christians' place, it is probably not.
According to the historic documents, this part was built in 1699, and it has retained almost original form despite the reconstruction.
The synagogue in Trebic functions as the museum of the UNESCO-listed Jewish Quarter due to its permanent exhibition of cultural artifacts. It's an unremarkable building from the outside, but the liturgical texts adorning the walls date as far back as 1707 and make this a highlight of any visit to Trebic.
The oldest mention of a synagogue is in 1590. The present old front synagogue, from 1639 to 1642, a simple Baroque building, is today used as a Hussite church. The new rear synagogue dates from the 18th century. It has been restored and serves as a museum and meeting room.
Generally, the old tradition in all the Moravian and Czech synagogues and in other places in the world is to decorate the walls with prayers which are said by the community, because most of them in the old days, 300, 400 years ago, they did not have prayer books. And usually the cantor is saying the prayers, they just listen and they say Amen, etc. But there are prayers which should be said by the public, and they are writing it on the walls, because we cannot decorate with anything else. And they are usually dedicated by someone. This is donated by a very important person, because you see it's in the front of the synagogue, so not everyone gets, the privilege to give, something for the front. So he's aluf. Aluf, you know what is aluf in the Hebrew today? Aluf is the boss of the army. So aluf here in the community means somebody who has a very important position in the community. So these are the pieces which the public says loudly, and they can look at the wall and say it. These are mudim, anachnu lach, we are thanking you, God. Yichadsheu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when we bless the new moon. We have Baruch Shenatan Torah Lamo Israel, and the verses up to the reading of the Torah, and many, many other like that. And some prayers which unfortunately today we don't say them. So you can learn the history now that today in most synagogues, all of them, even the very frum, we don't say them anymore, but you can still see that your grandparents a few generations ago said them. They are printed in some sidurim, some of them are not even anymore printed in the sidurim. Now, they also like to do lots of other symbols I like very much. Damask, Atlas, and here you have Summit. So Summit, Atlas, and Damask. What does it mean? It means when you come to the synagogue, which is the house of prayers, you have to dress properly. And this is both for the men and for the ladies. But they are also standing for verses, but not real verses. So, Summit is very nice. Sur mera va'aseh tov. Go away from bad and do good, which is a very famous verse. So they tell you, when you go out from the synagogue, and this is why it's here, because you go out, you go in, but you also go out. You pray to God very much, but that's not enough. You have to be good. Sumera, leave your bad things, and when you go out from the synagogue, do good. It's fantastic. They're always near the door, this summit. And then there is the Atlas. Yeah, again, before you turn and you go out to the synagogue, you see the Atlas. Atlas means Ach Tov LeIsrael. Now, this guy who says Tehillim all the time knows that one of the 5 books of Tehillim finishes with the word Ach Tov LeIsrael. We bless ourselves, we ask God to bless us. Only good for Israel, please do. But because it doesn't, if you put only Ach Tov LeIsrael, it's A-T-Le. You will have Atl. What about Atlas? So they added Selah. Although it's not in the Pasuk, Ach Tov LeIsrael, Selah, and then it became Atlas. Now, they knew that the most important one, when you enter the synagogue and everyone looks at you, is the Damask. Damask. So this is why it's first. And what is Damask? There was no Pasuk for it. No verse which goes with these 4 letters. So they said, oh, we have initials for it. Da mi shehu koncha. Know who is your owner, your master, which means God. So when you enter the synagogue, you see the damask, because you are going to pray. When you go out, slowly, you go with the blessing, Ach Tov LeIsrael Selah, only good for the people of Israel. And when you go out, don't forget, you have to do good when you go out.
The Jewish cemetery was founded around 1620 and is documented in feudal land registers as early back as 1636. There are more than 3,000 precious Baroque and neoclassic tombstones here, the oldest one dating back to 1631. In recent years, the memory of people who passed away during the Holocaust is being remembered on their family tombstones in the cemetery. The intact ceremonial hall at the entrance dates from 1903. The cemetery is one of the most precious and well-kept Jewish cemeteries in the whole of Moravia. From the beginning, the Jewish Quarter had its own self-government with an elected magistrate and 2 councillors. In 1849, it had its own administration led by a mayor, and it was called Zamosti, meaning over the bridge. In the 1920s, the area was merged with the town of Trebic, and the population started being mixed. In 1890, there were nearly 1,500 Jews in this area. But in the 1930s, only 300 were of Jewish faith. All of the Jewish residents were deported during the Second World War, and none are left at present.
Well, that's the show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you've missed any of our previous episodes, you can catch them on our website at www.spiritsister.co.za. As always, from me, Nikki, and the team, shalom and have a safe and peaceful week.